It's been 5 years since the COVID-19 pandemic, and all week, WTOL 11 has brought you stories taking us back to that fateful time. The chaos, the shutdowns, the sickness. But tonight, we're taking a different look back. While the pandemic was a challenging time for all of us, some actually found positives in the chaos. So tonight, we're highlighting some of the good takeaways from a very dark time. When you think of the pandemic, your first reaction probably isn't positive.
It was crazy.
It was a scary time.
It made me completely isolated and alone.
Right? Work was put on pause, public places were closed, and people were ordered to stay in their homes for months at a time. But for some Toledoans, like Aaron Tupper, leaving the world behind and all of its distractions actually had its silver linings.
People really realized the importance of connection. Like, we have been so focused on mobile and digital communication, and I feel like people realized how important it was to stay connected.
In the midst of lockdown, Tupper suddenly found herself working from home. And with less time spent in the office, it gave her more time to spend with her little ones.
My kids were very little at that point, so I always loved being able to bond with them.
And Tupper says when the pandemic ended, seeing the people you were separated from took on a whole new meaning.
I just think that being able to reconnect with people when you hadn't been able to, any connection you had, it felt so good and genuine.
But while Tupper was taking the time to enjoy her family, Kendall Comer, who was just a junior in high school at the time, was struggling with the exact opposite problem.
When the pandemic happened, it made me completely isolated and alone, and my parents were essential workers, so they were out of the house. So it was just me and my brother for the first time in my entire life.
Comer doesn't mince words. At first, she was completely miserable. But with a little reflection, it turned into a chance to slow down and get to know herself.
It taught me how to like being alone and to find good in being alone that I wouldn't have necessarily had before. I found new music that I liked that I had never discovered before, or a new food that I wouldn't have tried before, just because I was forcing myself to choose those things rather than choose what I was doing or liking.
And COVID offered more than just connection and reflection. For some, it provided success. Marissa Harshman, Toledo-based spokesperson for the Arizona-based supplements company Plexus, she says with people looking deeper into their health, it turned into an enormous opportunity.
The people reached out and wanted to feel better, and we just guided them with the supplements that they were needing and helped them with their journey.
Success was also found on the other side of town, at the Chinese restaurant Jing Xuan in West Toledo. While some restaurants struggled, their takeout service was ringing off the hook, mainly because they were the only action in their part of town.
I know we had an influx of new customers because their normal Chinese restaurant was closed.
Manager Wesley Sun says they were making money hand over fist. In fact, they were actually so successful, she started suffering from the success.
We were really grateful, but it was like, when I say it was chaotic, it was chaotic. I mean, we were getting calls at like 9 a.m. I would get stress streams. I remember waking up one day just literally saying, like, did you need chopsticks with that?
Wesley probably could have used a walk in the park, a stress reliever many Toledoans turned to during COVID. With bars and restaurants closed for indoor dining, people sought other ways to get out of the house, and the metro parks were happy to greet them.
So we saw a huge influx in visitors, which we have maintained. We know that today we have 62% more visitors to the metro parks than we did prior to COVID.
That's Scott Carpenter, the communications director for the metro parks. He says when they realized just how many people needed nature for their health and well-being, it led to them totally reshaping their programming.
But we've really embraced that in the last few years. We have mindful meetups now and yoga in the parks. So health and well-being have become an even more important part of what we do every day.
So with all these benefits hidden in the struggle, was the pandemic really all bad?
No, I don't think so. I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to different possibilities.
There are times that I miss those days, actually a lot of times.
I mean, now that we are able to be together, it's a lot harder to take it for granted than what it was before.
It was crazy, and it changed the world a lot, but I don't think all of it was bad.